This is the Resolute Podcast, where we are discipling and developing men to live with conviction. I am Vince Miller, your host. Today we're in a series of topics on being a better husband. Today's topic is dirty fighting techniques in marriage. Men, welcome back to the program. If this is your first time tuning in, well, thank you for joining us. The Resolute Podcast is produced multiple times every week. We have Resolute study guides that go along with this podcast for your men's group, found on the website for members at beresolute.org. Come back often. Feel free to add the podcast to your favorite RSS feed or in iTunes. You can also follow us on Twitter and Facebook. All these links are located on the homepage of the website. So let's dive in. Well, we are in a series entitled Being a Better Husband, mostly because I want to be a better husband. And over the course of the next few episodes, Keith Terhar and I will be sharing together how we have sharpened our skill as men in our marriage. Keith and I are sharing this wisdom out of many years of working with men in marriages. Keith has been a professional counselor for over the last 20 years. I have counseled men pastorally for about 20 years myself. And because we both work with men, we often hear stories on how men are handling issues in their marriage. And we just really feel compelled to help you find better ways to address these challenges. Today, we're looking at the topic of fighting dirty in our marriage. Keith, welcome to the show.
Yeah, good to be with you.
Yeah, great topic, right? So, Keith, I think dirty fighting is a topic that should be a fun one for us to debate. And I know, though, that there are some aspects of this discussion that don't bring up good feelings or emotions for some people, right? This is, I think, especially true for the person who's on the other side of a dirty fighting technique, which I would say you probably and I probably have been at some point, if not in our marriage, somewhere. So, at some point, I would assume that not only have we received it, but we have fought unfair. I'm talking about you and me, right? So help me to understand, do we all fight unfair? I mean, you've counseled guys. Do we all fight unfair at some point?
Well, you need to speak for yourself, Vince, because I never have, but my wife is terrible.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Well, all kidding aside, I think most of us do. The problem is we don't realize it, because we're doing it somewhat unconsciously, or we're doing things that have been modeled to us or that seem to work for us. But I think the first big step is kind of becoming aware of it.
Yeah, so I got to tell you, I know that I have experienced dirty fighting in my life, for sure, whether it be in my home of origin, in my current marriage, or even in work situations. There's all kinds of people that engage different kinds of tactics. So why don't you share with me what you think a few dirty, I mean, you've counseled guys, right? Yeah. I mean, you've seen this stuff. It's happened. It's happened to me. I see it happen in front of me as well. But there are all kinds of dirty fighting tactics in marriage. Can you name a few that you've seen?
Oh, man, there's a lot of great ones that maybe you'll recognize. But, the way people can take in the midst of an argument and getting away from the topic by blaming and trying to create causality. Sometimes we know a person's weakness, and we can get them to react by pushing those buttons, having some fun with that. And then it becomes about them, right? I think, a common one is just when someone maybe brings up a topic, we'll avoid it. We'll avoid the topic. We'll change the subject as a way to avoid it. Mm-hmm. And maybe another one that's subtle, but we'll, in the midst of our fighting or argument, we'll be very vague and unspecific so that the other person doesn't really have a chance to identify and know what we're talking about. We're just kind of throwing it out in generalities.
Oh yeah, I know. I will say this. I think probably my biggest mistake in my marriage is I have this little technique that I use sometimes, and I'm actually conscious that I'm doing it sometimes, not all the time, but I make these broad generalizations like you always. That little comment right there. You always or you never, whether it's positive or negative, negatively stated, it's always an attack. You always do this, you always do this, you always do this, you never do this, you never do this, you never do, and I just keep repeating it. And it's completely dirty, right? I mean, that's a dirty technique. Am I wrong?
Well, it is. And you know, if we mean by dirty, it's just not fair, right? When we accuse someone of always or never, is that really true? Or are we using that term to kind of overwhelmingly kind of convict them of something unfairly?
So here's what I go through, Keith. Just I'm going to play this out, and you can counsel me right now, because I actually do this. I think sometimes that I lean into those tactics because I feel like I'm losing, right? And it'll come out of my mouth, and I'll realize that I'm saying it out of my mouth as soon as it happens, but it's because I feel like I'm losing. And while I don't want to fight dirty, I also don't want to lose, right? And I think there's a lot of guys that feel like they lose when it comes to an argument at home, right? I know I have felt that way, and I think I feel that way most of the time. Maybe because my wife is really good at arguing. But I know that you have been in counseling sessions where a husband and a wife will come in and they're just going after it, right?
Many.
What's your response to them in that moment?
It's so common. And I think it comes out, even the way we talk about it, right? Fighting. Well, what is a fight? A fight is inflicting pain on each other in an effort to try to win or come out on top. And so couples that are fighting a lot or say they fight a lot, it seems to me that their goal is to win. And if your goal is to win, there's going to be a winner and a loser every time. And if you're losing a lot, well, what do? You fight harder to try to win. Maybe you fight dirtier to try to win. And so I'll often ask them, you know, what do you want to be your goal? Is there something better? Is there something better than winning that can sort of be of benefit to this? Because we know that we're going to have conflict. You know, avoiding fighting, avoiding conflict is not the answer. But what is our goal? What is the outcome we really want when we're disagreeing?
Well, and maybe the goal is to understand each other. Maybe sounds what we good. Do, yeah, you know, like I think of what you're saying right now, and I think of, yeah, that is the reason that we fight dirty, isn't it? Is because we feel like we're losing, and rather than seeking understanding, we want to win. So we drop in these little dirty fighting techniques because it's about winning and losing. It's not even about the argument itself. It's not about understanding each other, which would be a much more beautiful, godly marital goal than to win and to lose, because really when I lose, my wife loses, right? So what I hear you saying is we got to think differently about what our goal is inside of the marriage relationship, and I think this is a good challenge for me, right? Great
point. I agree that sometimes we get so far away from the original issue in the way that it's deteriorated into, well, I'm pretty hurt, and I'm going to make you feel just as bad as I feel.
That is exceptional, because that is so true, isn't it? That is what the human heart does right there. And there's the problem. You know, I was thinking about this particular conversation. Of course, you got to go to this text. This is the text, man. Ephesians 4, verses 25 through 27 reads, "Therefore, having put away falsehood, let each one of you speak truth with his neighbor, for we are members of one another. Be angry and do not sin." And then the phrase that I want to really tackle, I know this isn't necessarily about marriage, but it's about relationships. Do not let the sun go down on your anger. Give no opportunity to the devil, right? And really what's happening in that conversation, we start using those dirty fighting techniques. Sounds like to me from this text is that we're giving opportunity to the devil. We're just escalating evil. And I know this text isn't about marriage, Keith, but about general relationships with people. And I think it has some deep truth in it that we need to hear and apply into our marriage. There's one particular word here in this text that really captured my heart today when I read it. It's the word members, right? Members. And I think this bears a lot of weight in our personal relationship, in our marriage, because it's conveying a mission of caring for one another. When you're a member with one another, you have to care for one another, meaning that there is something of higher importance in this argument than me winning, right? It's the issues that come between us. And clearly, I believe what Paul wants us to do here in Ephesians is seek out reconciliation before the sun goes down, right? And you can take that to literally mean the sun goes down. That's totally fine. But I think that means within a timely fashion before damage is done and hurt has come to another member. Because we got to remember that the goal in marriage is not winning, but oneness.
Amen.
Isn't that it? The goal is not winning, it's oneness in marriage. And I think if we can remember that when we're in the middle of an argument, that it's not about winning, it's about oneness, and we seek after that, and we run after that with all of our heart, man, we're gonna end up ending every conversation before the sun goes down better, rather than resorting to tactics that are about winning. So Keith, let's get super practical. What is one thing you think we could do this week to be a better husband given this particular topic? What's one thing?
We've talked a lot about awareness, how important that is. And I said it, it took me some time to look through some of these techniques to realize, oh my goodness, I'm guilty of that. And to be really intentional at trying not to do that. But more than that, it's what you said is recognizing the goal of oneness. I love the passage where it says, be angry and do not sin.
Right.
Which tells me you can be upset, you can be angry, you can have conflict. In fact, it's inevitable. But can you do that without the sinfulness of fighting dirty, of hurting each other? Can you come out on the other side and say, that was healthy conflict. That was godly conflict that we had.
Wow, that's good. I love how a lot of these things come back to our own personal awareness about what we're doing. Maybe another piece to this challenge that would be really great for some of these marriages out there is to talk about these dirty fighting techniques. I would highly recommend it to talk about it in a time of peace. Because it's really not fair to point out somebody else's dirty fighting techniques in the middle of
that would be a dirty fighting technique. Yeah.
It would be another fighting technique, right? Just another one to add to the list. But I know that you've passed on a list to me, and I've looked at some of these lists as well. But we could put a list into these guys' hands, and they can actually grade themselves. And what they could do is they could sit down with their wife and let them grade them, and then you get to grade your wife, and then just talk about the different dirty fighting techniques that you use and stop doing it altogether. Yeah. Just say, look, we're going to commit to not doing this thing. This is the thing. Like I said, what mine was today, I make broad negative generalizations. You always, you never. I can choose today to never do that again. Right? Yeah. Isn't that ironic?
Yeah. And it's good to be able to laugh about it.
I know.
Because we do it. Let's not pretend.
Yeah. Right.
Laugh about it.
Yeah.
But change.
Yeah. Laugh about it. Very good. Well, we'll end with that. Guys, that's the show. Thanks for listening. I hope you enjoyed our time today, because I know Keith and I have enjoyed it with you. And we hope, of course, that you'll pass along this podcast to other men you know. Just head to our website, or simply share the feed. Guys, I really want to encourage you today to get into our men's daily Devo. Just head to the website today, button at the top right of the screen, click on that. Join us for a daily devotional in your email inbox every day. It's just a short shot of God's Word, a short explanation of that text, and a challenge, just like we did here today. It's just real short in your email inbox. We would love to put that in your hands. And of course, we also, on the homepage of our website, have a place where you can sign up to receive these podcasts in your email once a week. We just send you one of our best and love to have you listen and share this with other guys you know as well. So guys, I love you. And remember, get off the bench, get into the game, and join us next time for another edition of the Resolute Podcast.